The International Committee of the Red Cross is scaling up efforts to provide life-saving relief to people on the ground in Gaza. The organization is in contact, they say, with Hamas and Israeli officials to help reduce the suffering. The Red Cross is one of the international aid organizations making a call to improve access to essential services. Thousands of families in the Gaza Strip have been left destitute amid escalating hostilities, many in desperate need of food, medical supplies and other basic necessities. I spoke to Chris Hanger. He's the spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross. Chris, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much for coming on. The big question, of course, is around a humanitarian corridor. We know that without it, there's no way for aid to get into Gaza, and there's no safe passage for Palestinians either.
Yeah, it's a devastating humanitarian situation. What we've seen in the last day unfolding is we have people killed, we have people in desperate need for medicine, for food, for water. And as we speak right now, there's a convoy from the International Committee of the Red Cross that's on its way with a surgical team, but also with desperately medical items and other humanitarian aid in order to help people that have been, for days now, without aid, without food, without water, and that are in desperate need for relief.
So your convoy is on its way with a surgical team and with supplies. Are they able to get safe passage? Do you have that guarantee?
We're obviously in touch with both parties to the conflict. It is essential that people have the right for humanitarian aid, and we hope that those supplies, but also that surgical team, and you've seen the images of wounded people, of people that are so in desperate need, for healthcare, that those people can enter, and that's the role of the International Committee of the Red Cross. That's why we're neutral. That's why we also talk to all sides, that we are able to bring aid in, and we're hopeful, and we obviously won't give up, that this desperately needed aid can enter into Gaza.
So you're saying there is no guarantee?
The problem right now is that at this stage there is no aid that can enter Gaza. But obviously what we're doing right now is we're in constant conversations. We're pushing on all sides. We're making sure that people understand how desperate the situation is, so that people have a relief, that people can get the needed help and humanitarian aid that they're needed.
Yeah. It's obviously a massive concern, especially in the wake of that strike that hit the Al-Ahli hospital in Gaza City. Almost 500, not only civilians killed, but also medical personnel. The Red Cross must also be concerned for its own people.
It's a dangerous situation. It's an active conflict. There's fighting ongoing. So, but that is what the International Committee of the Red Cross is doing all over the world. We work in conflict zones. We help people that are trapped between the front lines, and this is our job. What we've seen is been devastating. Too often in conflicts and fighting, it's civilians who are paying the price, and that's why right now what is important is that civilians are being spared, that they get a respite from fighting, that healthcare facilities are protected, and that much needed aid, and specifically medical aid, gets into Gaza, and people have a glimmer of hope in these desperate times.
Yeah. When you and I were talking in the build-up to this interview, you were telling me about, obviously, the incredible toll this is taking on people, the incredible loss of life, people losing numerous members of their family as well, and the incredible mental toll this must also be taking. It's now almost 2 weeks of constant fighting.
Absolutely. You have the physical scars, the physical injuries. People have lost their loved ones. People have left with nothing. They've fled south. And I think sometimes what we forget is also that this is not the first escalation. This is not the first escalation in Gaza. And people have been through countless escalations through their lifetimes. You can't forget that, almost the majority of people in Gaza are children, and what they've been growing up is conflict, is violence, and the toll that this is taking on the population on both sides is tragic, and obviously that is something that will take years to process, will take years, if it's even possible, that people get by and can move on from such tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely. You've been talking about that convoy that's on its way, and part of that convoy, Chris, is a surgical team. How much work are your medical team members able to do in the hospitals that are still up and running?
So it's going to be obviously a huge challenge. Those are very experienced surgeons. I know that one of them has been in Gaza before, so this person has seen the horrors of the conflict, and obviously they're quite experienced in a way that they can help. It will be only a drop in the ocean of the staggering needs specifically for the injured and those that need, if I can be bluntly, stitching up. But I think what is important is that this is a first step. This is a very experienced team. This is a team that has been operating in Gaza already. So we really hope that it can make a difference and it can actually save lives.
Yeah. Chris, it's a number of shortages, right, that we're seeing. It's food, fuel, water, electricity, as we've been discussing, medical supplies as well. And in the midst of that, there are teams like the team from the Red Cross running into the danger. I just wonder whether you're having conversations with your team about how they're doing mentally, physically, and whether any of them have requested to come back home.
So what we're doing right now is we are scaling up. We're not scaling down in Gaza. We're bringing in more supplies. We're bringing in teams. So this is something that we see that's happening all the time in conflicts is the needs are rising. There is a need for humanitarian aid and there's a need for colleagues to go in and for colleagues to do their job. That's why the International Committee of the Red Cross exists, is to help people that are caught up in war and violence around the world. But of course, it's something that is a difficult situation. You're working in an active conflict zone. You need to be able to do your work. You need to be able to be professional. And of course, that's potentially taking a toll on people's mental health, but also on people, how they're processing what's going on. But I'm quite confident that, our colleagues around the world, but also specifically now in Gaza and the ones that are going to go in, will be able to do their job, and they're professionals and they're up for it.
Well, incredible work being done by the humanitarian aid groups in Gaza. Just as we end off our conversation, Chris, you've said that you're in conversation with both sides, particularly around providing safe passage for the supplies that needs to get into Gaza. Are those appeals for humanitarian corridors, those appeals from the Red Cross, are they bearing fruit? Are you hopeful?
There's always hope. There's always hope. And I think that's something that we shouldn't forget in the most desperate of times. There should be hope. And I think what is important to remember is that, we are capable of delivering aid in the most remote, in the most difficult places, in the most dire situations. And I think that's also why it's important to stay neutral, because then we have a possibility to speak to all sides and to purely bring forward that we are trying to help civilians, we're trying to help people that are not involved in the fighting anymore, and that we can help those that are in desperate need of food, water, medical care, and whatever these people need.
Yeah. To help those who are innocent in all of this. Chris, let me thank you for your time. Chris Hanger with the International Committee of the Red Cross.